brothers and sisters. This is Brother Chuck, and I want to share with you a lesson that actually my wife Allison asked me to share specifically because it's one that she really likes. It's the story of Jacob and Esau, the twin brothers, and there are great lessons for us in this story, I believe, that are really important. So I'm very happy to be able to share it with you. As you may remember, Jacob and Esau were born twin brothers of Isaac and Rebekah, and they're fighting in the womb, and then they have struggles after they're born as well. So I want to read from the story in Genesis chapter 25. Let's start there. In Genesis chapter 25, starting in verse 24, this is talking about when Rebekah was pregnant with the twins. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, and he was like a hairy garment all over, so his name was Esau. Afterwards his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, "Please, feed me with some of that red stew, for I am weary." Therefore his name was called Edom, which means red. But Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright as of this day." And Esau said, "Look, I'm about to die. What is this birthright to me?" Then Jacob said, "Swear to me as of this day." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of lentils, and he ate and drank, arose, and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So we see a little bit of the different character of Jacob and Esau. Jacob was the favorite of his mother. He liked to stay at home. Esau was the favorite of his father. He liked to go out and hunt. And we also see here that Jacob is very crafty and manipulative. He's not very generous, and he tricks his brother into selling his birthright. And then there's another story which reveals the character of the two brothers, continuing in Genesis chapter 27. I'm going to start reading in verse 1. And this is a story where Isaac thinks he's going to die. Now he ends up living for many more years, but at this time he thinks he's going to die, so he wants to give a final blessing to his twin sons. Now the sons were born twins. However, you have to remember that Esau was born first of the twins and Jacob was born second. So normally the first son who gets the main blessing would be Esau, and he's also his father's favorite. So Genesis chapter 27, starting in verse 1. Now it came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were so dim that he couldn't see, that he called Esau his older son and said to him, "My son." And he said to him, "Here I am." Then he said, "Behold, I am old, and I don't know the day of my death. Now therefore please take your weapons, your quiver and bow. Go out into the field and hunt some game for me, and make me my savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me so I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son. And Esau went into the field to hunt game to bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, "Indeed, I heard your father speak to Esau your brother, saying, 'Bring me my game and make me savory food, that I may eat and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you. Now go to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice fat kids from the goats, and I will make savory food for your father that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death. Then Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, look, Esau my brother is hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. But his mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go get them for me. And he went and got them and brought them to his mother. And his mother made savory food such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were in the house, and put them on Jacob her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Then she gave the savory food and the bread which she had prepared into the hands of her son Jacob. So he went to his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have just done as you told me. Please arise, sit, eat of the game, that your soul may bless me. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord your God brought it to me. Isaac said to Jacob, please come near that I may feel you, my son, whether you really are my son Esau or not. So Jacob went near to Isaac his father and felt him. And his voice was Jacob's voice. And he said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands, so he blessed him. Then he said, are you really my son Esau? And he said, I am. He said, bring near to me, and I will eat of my son's game, so my soul may bless you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate it, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come near, my son, and kiss me. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of the clothing, and he blessed him. And then it goes on, and he gives his son Jacob, thinking that he's Esau, the great blessing of the oldest son. So Jacob has deceived his father, has lied to him many times. He even said, God was the one who gave me the good fortune to be able to find the game early. So he lied repeatedly, obeying his mother and deceiving his father and tricking his father many different ways. After his father blesses him, his brother Esau comes in with the game. And let's continue in the story in verse 30. Now it happened as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Esau, Jacob is scarcely going out from the presence of Isaac his father. Esau his brother came in from the hunting. He also had made savory food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me. And his father Isaac said to him, who are you? And he said, I'm your son, your firstborn Esau. Then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, who? Where is the one who hunted the game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me also, my father. But he said, your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing. And Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now he's taken away my blessing. And he said, have you received a blessing for me? And then later on it talks about how he says, please bless me, my father. And he lifts up his voice and he weeps. Esau weeps that his brother has deceived him and stolen the blessing from him. So let's stop and think about these 2 brothers. They're twin brothers, born of the same mother and father. They're very different people. One is hairy, one is smooth, one is liked by the father, one is liked by the mother. And one of them is very crafty and deceitful, and the other one is not. And when I read this story to people, I always ask the question, honestly, which one of these brothers do you think is the worst? Jacob or Esau? Which is the worst sinner in your mind? And Esau, maybe he is stupid, maybe he is easily tricked, but Jacob is a complete liar. He's crafty, he's deceitful, he's cunning. Which one do you think in God's eyes is the worst sinner? Almost everybody I ask the question says, well, that's obvious. Jacob is the liar and the deceiver. He's the worst sinner. Let's turn to Hebrews chapter 12. There's a great lesson for us in this story. Hebrews chapter 12 is written to Christians to equip us in the challenges we're facing in this life. Hebrews chapter 12, I'm going to start reading in verse 14. Pursue peace with all people and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord, looking carefully lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up cause trouble, and by this many become defiled, lest there be any fornicator or profane person like Esau, who for one morsel of food sold his birthright. For you know afterward, when he wanted to inherit the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place for repentance, though he sought it diligently with tears. We are warned here many different things. First, he starts off saying we need to be seeking peace with all people. And then he says, and holiness. Holiness means being separate and set apart from the world, without which no one will see the Lord. This is one of the most challenging and convicting scriptures in all of the Bible that says, without holiness, no one will see the Lord. Is that if we believe in Jesus and we've been baptized, that's just the beginning. Without holiness, without living holy lives, we will not see the Lord. One writer said that this is the most unpopular verse in the entire Bible. No one ever wants to preach on this verse because it calls all of us to live a holy life. Then he talks about we need to be sure that we don't fall short of the grace of God, that we don't allow bitterness in our hearts towards our brothers and sisters or towards God to destroy us and to cause a root that will lead to our destruction, a root of bitterness. And he also points to the example of Esau. He said there should not be any fornicator or profane person like Esau, who for a morsel of food sold his birthright. When God looks at Esau, the sin that he saw was even worse than the sin of Jacob. Jacob was a liar and deceiver, but Jacob valued the important things in life. He valued his birthright. Esau, when he was given a choice between a little bit of food for right now to satisfy his flesh or his birthright, he rejected his birthright because he wanted to satisfy his flesh with a little short-term pleasure of some food. So God's attitude was, this is a man I can't even work with. And he is an example for us of the way God does not want us to live. He wants us to be someone who's valuing the important things, not just living for some short-term pleasure. Jacob was a deceiver, but God took care of Jacob. He ground him, he put him under Laban, who was an even worse deceiver. He put him through 20 years of hard labor to refine him and to change his character and to burn the deceit out of him. So God disciplined Jacob and to perfect him and to change his character. But God saw in Jacob, at least here's someone who values the important things in life, not like Esau. I can't do anything with Esau. He is a profane, godless man who doesn't value the important things. The lesson that I think God wants us to learn from this story is Every day in life, we're faced with a choice, not just when we become Christians, but throughout our Christian lives. Are we going to be living to value our birthright, which is spending eternity with God, or are we going to be valuing a little short-term pleasure like Esau? And that short-term pleasure, Satan provides it in all different forms. It could be short-term pleasure, as he mentions here in the case of fornication, of sex outside of marriage, or drunkenness, or laziness, gluttony, greed, or whatever. It's the same choice that Satan puts in front of us. Do you want a little short-term pleasure for your flesh right now? I can make you feel really good. Or are you going to say, no, I value the eternal things. It's more important for me that I make it to heaven. That's the spirit that Jacob had, and he had to be refined, but that Esau did not have. Esau is the bad example. The person to me who is the good example in this area especially is Moses. And let's turn in Hebrews chapter 11 as the opposite example of character. In Hebrews chapter 11, I'm going to start reading in verse 24. Hebrews 11 is the great examples of faith, and the Bible tells us the righteous must live by faith. We have to persevere through the challenges in life. That the faith is a way of life that perseveres to the end, and we're held up. One of the great examples of that is Moses. In Hebrews 11 verse 24 it says, by faith Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God rather than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. Moses was faced with the same challenge that Esau was. He could either, as a prince in Egypt, he could either enjoy all the pleasures that were available to him in Egypt, but he said, no, I value something more important. I'd rather suffer affliction with the people of God than enjoy the short-term pleasure that I might be able to have in this life. So I think we're all faced with a question. Are we going to follow the example of Moses, who relinquished the passing pleasures of sin, or Esau, who for a single meal gave up his birthright? There are great lessons in the Old Testament that are for our benefit, and I believe that if we really study the Old Testament and the New Testament together, we'll get so much deeper understanding of the New Testament, and these stories are in there to teach us lessons. And this was as a negative lesson. Do not be like Esau. And when you're given a choice in life, which you'll be faced with every day between short-term pleasure or your eternal birthright, don't make the mistake of Esau. Be like the man of God, Moses, who valued the most important things in life, which is our salvation.